All right, well, good morning again. We're going to go ahead and get started as most of our registrants have been able to log on to the webinar. Again, my name is Andy Hopkinson. I'm with the Center for Sustainable Energy. We are going to be covering the Sacramento County Incentive Project as one of the incentive projects under CALeVIP today. The items that we're going to go through include a brief overview of sort of electric vehicles in California and the momentum that's building there, brief overview of CALeVIP itself. Then we're going to dive into the details of the Sacramento County Incentive Project. We'll specifically focus on applicant and site eligibility requirements as well as equipment requirements. And then we'll walk through the application process for DC fast charging and for level 2 charging. Finally, we will cover possible project partnership that CALeVIP has been pursuing with a local market partner. And then we'll conclude with a question and answer session. I would encourage you, if questions occur to you as we're going through the webinar, to please submit those through our chat feature on your interface, your webinar interface. We will hold all those questions to the end, but that way you don't lose them as they occur to you. Okay, just diving into the growth of electric vehicles and electric vehicle trends in California, which is the impetus for why we are opening the Sacramento County Incentive Project. If you look at the bottom two graphs, which cover the zero emission vehicle markets in the U.S., you can see in both of those graphs that the 2017 and 2018 timeframe, there's a sharp trend up in the advanced technology vehicle sales specifically. And the graph on the bottom right is highlighting just plug-in hybrid electric vehicles and battery electric vehicles specifically. If you look at California, in the top chart, you can see that California is far and away the top state for the sales of advanced technology vehicles. Today, there are over 40 vehicles that are plug-in electric vehicles that are offered, with many more planned. Certain automakers like Volkswagen, Daimler, Volvo, and even Nissan have made announcements to electrify their full fleets in the coming years. And so with that, the Energy Commission has been funding for years through the Alternative and Renewable Fuel and Vehicle Technology Program the build out of electric vehicle charging infrastructure. That was extended into 2024 through Assembly Bill 8, which assures continued funding for electric vehicle charging as a way to transform California's transportation market and help the state to attain various climate change policies. California Electric Vehicle Infrastructure Project was started by the Energy Commission in 2017 with a couple of specific goals in mind. It has been designed to implement targeted incentive projects across California, each targeted incentive project designed to address a specific region's electric vehicle charging needs. As well, CALeVIP has been set up to be a mechanism to help speed the installation reporting and the funding process for electric vehicle charging. And looking briefly at some of the fast facts on the Sacramento County Incentive Project, there are $14 million worth of available incentives. $7.7 million of that is available for level 2 electric vehicle charging, with $6.3 million of incentives available for DC fast charging. The project is available for Sacramento County businesses, nonprofits, workplaces, multi-unit dwellings such as apartments or condos, and public facilities to install one or both types of the electric vehicle charging. It is as well set up as a first come, first serve project. That first come basis we'll talk about in a little more detail further on in the presentation, but it is dependent on whether you are the site owner filing the application or a non-site owner filing the application. And we'll highlight specifically what creates your place in line. The project will begin accepting applications starting in April, so just next month. And there are ongoing partnerships discussions with the Sacramento Municipal Utility District, or Smud. So looking at the rebates specifically, what's available under the Sacramento County Incentive Project in the general market or non-disadvantaged community locations, the incentives for level 2 chargers are up to $5,000 per connector and up to $70,000 or 75% of the actual costs, whichever is less, for DC fast chargers. Applications for level 2 chargers, regardless of whether they're in a general market or a disadvantaged community market, can be for up to 10 level 2 connectors. And the applications for DC fast chargers, the rebates are available for up to 4 DC fast chargers. However, the applications can be filed for however many you're building at the site, and we would encourage you to complete it as such. That's valuable information that helps CALeVIP inform future project design. Looking at the disadvantaged communities, which is defined as the top 25% of census tracts under the CalEnviro's Green 3.0 tool. The rebates for level 2 chargers are up to $5,500 per connector, and for DC fast chargers up to $80,000 or 80% of actual cost, whichever is less. In addition, there is a $1,000 additional rebate per connector for level 2 chargers that are installed in multi-unit dwellings. Okay, turning to site host eligibility requirements. Each applicant does need to either be the site owner or have site owner authorization to install. That's a very critical concept to have that site owner authorization. There is a site verification form which is downloadable today on the project website. That is the form to provide evidence of that property owner authorization. In addition to that, each applicant does need to be a business, a nonprofit organization, or a government entity that is based in California or does have a California-based affiliate. Service providers are eligible, of all types, are eligible to apply for CALeVIP incentives on behalf of the property owner, again, just needing to file that site verification form. Okay, looking at the equipment eligibility requirements under Sacramento County Incentive Project. You can find on the CALeVIP.org website under the Get Started the current eligible equipment list. Again, it's at the CALeVIP.org website under Get Started. Whether DC fast chargers or level 2 chargers, each piece of equipment does need to be new and installed for the first time at that location. The equipment does either need to be on the eligible equipment list or meet the full eligibility criteria that are defined in the implementation manual, which is also available for download on the project website. Just looking quickly at some of those requirements. For level 2, it does include just a requirement for networked EV chargers with a minimum 2-year networking agreement. Each charger capable of delivering 6.2 kilowatt or more. With a J1772 connector, does need to accept some form of credit card payment, whether that's a card swipe or through call-in or other mechanisms. The equipment does need to be approved by a nationally recognized testing laboratory program. And importantly, for those who are familiar with the Fresno County Incentive Project, I'll draw a distinction here. The equipment does need to be Energy Star certified. So whereas previously under the Fresno County Incentive Project, level 2 equipment could be committed to receiving eventually their Energy Star certification, from the inception of the Sacramento County Incentive Project, all level 2 equipment will be required to be Energy Star certified. Turning to the DC fast chargers, equipment requirements include a DC fast charger that has dual standard CHAdeMO and SAE CCS connectors, networked unit again, with a minimum 5-year networking agreement required, capable of at least 50 kilowatt or greater power transfer. Again, ability to accept some form of credit card payment and to be NRDL listed or approved. Okay, looking specifically at DC fast charging installation site requirements, wanted to go through on the left some of the obvious ones. That the site does need to be located within Sacramento County. Does need to be well lit, secure, and the site does need to be in compliance with federal, state, municipal laws and rules. For DC fast chargers, the site does need to be publicly accessible 24/365. Therefore, the DC fast charger or DC fast chargers cannot be in a gated area that is closed to the public at any time. So a parking garage that might close for 3 hours or 4 hours overnight, for instance, would not meet this requirement specifically. On the right side, there's a full list of the eligible sites for DC fast chargers. Just to run through that, there's urban and suburban retail core, retail shopping center, grocery stores, restaurants, gas stations, hospitals, police or sheriff stations, airports outside of their long-term parking areas, hotels, city, county, or privately owned parking lots or garages, not just city or county-owned properties, but city, county, or privately owned parking lots or garages, libraries, casinos, public transit hubs. And then DC fast chargers are eligible to be installed curbside if it meets, again, all of the local laws and requirements, as long as the curbside location to be installed is adjacent to one of the above listed eligible sites. Okay, turning to the level 2 installation site requirements. They're similar, again, to the DC fast charging in that they need to be located in Sacramento County. The site itself needs to be well lit, secure, and in compliance with federal, state, municipal laws and regulations. There's no requirement on 24/365 access. And the eligible sites specifically for level 2, while shorter lists, are actually more expansive in that any commercial type site, workplace, multi-unit dwelling, public facility of any sort, a light duty fleet use location would qualify as eligible sites. In addition, just like DC fast charging, curbside level 2 charging is an acceptable location for rebate under the project, as long as the curbside location is adjacent to one of the above listed eligible sites. Okay, I wanted to cover some of the eligible costs that can be rebated through the project. And it's actually a little easier to focus just on the costs that can't be rebated, and that includes the actual permit costs and things like solar panels that could be installed at the site. Otherwise, the costs that are listed here, including the electric vehicle chargers or EVSE themselves, any of the installation costs associated with the installation of labor and materials would be eligible. Electric infrastructure upgrades related to the EV charging, such as a step-down transformer to deliver the right voltage for level 2 charging in a site, or panel upgrades would be eligible. Utility service order costs, planning and engineering design costs to prepare plans for both utility service and for permit would be eligible. Project signage, energy storage that is connected to and supports the EV charging would be an eligible cost, as well as the network agreement with a network provider and a warranty that could cover service and parts. I'll highlight here that the utility service order and planning and engineering design costs have asterisks next to them. Those are the only two cost categories that an applicant could incur after December 27th, 2018, but before their funds reserve date upon filing their application and being determined eligible by Center for Sustainable Energy. Those are the only two costs that could be incurred before that funds reserve date, but after December 27th. All of the other costs must be incurred after the application is assigned a funds reserve date. Okay, I wanted to walk through the application process. For those of you that are familiar with either the Fresno County Incentive Project or the Southern California Incentive Project under CALeVIP, you'll recognize both of those focused on just one technology, either level 2 or DC fast charging, where Sacramento County Incentive Project focuses and offers rebates on both DC fast charging and level 2 charging. There are two processes that an applicant or an application could go through. We'll first walk through the DC fast charger or combination process. All DC fast charger sites are eligible for level 2 EV chargers as well, and you only need to file one application for both the DC fast charging and level 2, and it would be considered a combination application. I will highlight before I go into the process here and then subsequently the process for level 2 that the Sacramento County Incentive Project, like the other CALeVIP incentive projects, does have an active application cap. In Sacramento County, that active application cap is $640,000, meaning that an applicant can only have applications totaling up to $640,000 active. That means in a funds reserve status up through approved or paid out at any one time. So looking specifically here at the DC fast charger combination application process, if you are an eligible applicant with an eligible site, as we went through previously, you'd be able to apply online. Again, you'd want to apply online prior to purchasing and installing EV chargers, with the only exception of incurred costs for that being the design engineering costs or utility service. Once you file your application online, if you are not the site owner and you are filing on behalf of a site owner, you would move to step 3, where you would be required to upload a site verification form within 5 days of your initial application. If you do not file that site verification form within 5 days, the application will be canceled. Whether you're the site owner or if you file the site verification form, with all that information submitted, CSE would review the application, verify the site's location within or outside of a disadvantaged community, verify the site is an eligible site, the applicant is an eligible applicant, confirm your eligibility in the form of moving the application to funds reserved, which you could monitor on your application dashboard and would receive a funds reserved email as well. That would start, for this DC fast charger or combination application, a 450-day performance period or 15-month performance period. Under the DC fast charger or combination application, step 5 is an optional step that an applicant could choose to take at any point after entering funds reserved and before 240 days or 8 months from that funds reserve date. You could submit your permit, the design engineering documents, invoice, and a signed copy of the application, which is provided to you in that funds reserve email, and then make a request for a milestone payment. That milestone payment, as indicated in step 6, CSE would review the documents you submitted, and you'd be eligible for up to 45% of your reserved funds based on actual costs that you'd submitted to that point. If the site is located in a disadvantaged community, that 45% is actually up to 48% of your reserved funds. Whether an applicant elects to request a milestone payment or not, step 7 is the culmination really of the applicant's interface with the application process, and that you would need to submit all required documents for final payment. The final documents are listed in full in the implementation manual, which again is available for download on the project website today. Those documents do need to be submitted within 450 days of your funds reserve date, otherwise the application would be canceled. Once the Center for Sustainable Energy determines that all of the application documents are acceptable and meet the requirements of the project, your application would be approved and final rebate would be issued within 15 days. That approval is an important step as well, because once an application is approved, that application no longer counts toward your active application cap. So if you were at $640,000 cap and you had a $320,000 application approved, you'd then again have an additional $320,000 that you could apply for on a new application. Okay, turning to the level 2 application process, it's very similar to the DC fast charger and combination application process, with the exception that there is no optional milestone payment in this process. Again, if you're an eligible applicant with a qualified installation site, you would apply online prior to purchasing and installing your EV charging. Again, the only exception is the design, engineering, and utility costs could be incurred after December 27, 2018, before that funds reserve date. As with the DC fast charger process, if you're not the site owner, you would need to file a site verification form again within 5 days to avoid the application being canceled. Once all of the materials, the application and/or the site verification form are submitted, Center for Sustainable Energy would review the application, and if all of the validations were made, determine your proposed project eligible, and give you a funds reserve date that would start your 270-day performance period clock, in which you would procure equipment, install, and make the equipment operational at the site. Under step 5, you'd be submitting all of the required documentation. Again, that's detailed in full in the implementation manual available on the website. And with that, those documents submitted, CSC will review for completeness and accuracy, and then issues payment from an approval within 15 days. Okay, I wanted to highlight a few critical next steps for potential applicants to the Sacramento County Incentive Project. First, if you're not already a registered user of the CALeVIP website, I'd encourage you to go to calevip.org and create your account today. Second, we've been talking about the site verification form for non-site owner filed applications. A snapshot of that form is shown on the right-hand side of the screen. And I wanted to just walk you through that. We do encourage you, before you go to file your application online, to have this form completed, with the exception of the application number that, of course, will be assigned once you file your application. But I encourage you to have the rest of the form completed, including the bottom portion that requires the signature of the property owner. In addition to having that, we encourage you to be on the lookout for a March 28th email where we will provide important project updates, including the opening of the application period. Again, that will be in April. Okay. And with that, I wanted to discuss CALeVIP's ongoing discussions with Sacramento Municipal Utility District, or Smud, as a potential local partner in the project. The discussion is to add additional resources, both funds and in-market support to the project to make it more robust. Aspects that are being considered in this partnership discussion include the requirement for an EV submeter on all level 2 and DC fast charger installations, the assignment of low carbon fuel standard, or LCFS, dispensed fuel credit to Sacramento Municipal Utility District for both level 2 and DC fast charger applications, and increase to the overall project incentive funds. The increase would both be an initial investment of $2 million spread across both level 2 and DC fast charger technologies. As well, future years would be extended through the use of those assigned LCFS credits being funneled back in at a minimum of $5 million into the Sacramento County Incentive Project to allow the project to have funding in future years. This could be particularly beneficial for applicants navigating multiple sites for installation, where they would be bumping up against a possible active application cap of $640,000, for instance. In addition to this, the assigned LCFS credits would be 100% committed to being reinvested in Sacramento County, specifically for electric vehicle infrastructure projects only. Smud, as a local partner, would be providing service order support as part of the project, and as well would be supporting project marketing within the region. Okay, we've got a couple polls that we wanted to open to the attendees. We'd like to give you about 45 seconds to read and respond to the 2 questions we have in the poll. Okay, and second polling question, please take your time to go ahead and review and respond to this question as well. Thank you. Okay, we're going to go ahead and close out the poll now, so I'll give you just 5 seconds more if you still wanted to get in a response. Okay, we'll go ahead and transition out of the poll. Thank you very much for completing those. With that, we'll go ahead and transition into a Q&A session for the webinar. Again, what we're going to do is take the questions and comments that have been submitted during the application in the order that they've come in. And we'll read the question out to the group and then respond. And I'll have another panelist, Brian Fauble, with the California Energy Commission, join me in responding to questions that have come in from the attendees. Actually, let's go back. I apologize. We're going to leave this slide up last after we conclude. We are also opening, as part of CALeVIP, the docket, which is always open, but we're specifically opening it for comments on the Sacramento County Incentive Project, any aspects of the projects that you've seen today, including the possible partnership with Smud on the project. And the information on this slide, which will be distributed to each attendee and webinar registrant after the conclusion of this webinar, includes the direct links to that docket landing page, as well as the direct link to where to submit those comments. We'd welcome those comments by the end of this week, Friday the 22nd by 5 p.m. We would encourage those to be submitted online. And we'll go ahead and transition into those questions now. We'll start pulling up those that, again, have come in order here. Okay, the first question, and one thing I'd like to encourage with questions as you submit any additional ones, if you have comments that you want to make as well and you want read of those in the webinar, we're happy to do that. We do ask you to include, if you can, your business or organization name in your question if possible. So the first question is, does this apply to the city of Sacramento? The answer is yes. This Sacramento County Incentive Project includes all municipalities within the county limits as well, including the city of Sacramento. So looking at the next question, is there a minimum amount of chargers that would need to be installed? Is that the full question? To qualify. There's not a minimum number of chargers that need to be installed to qualify. This is set up rather as a maximum number of rebates. It's up to 10 level 2 connectors or up to 4 DC fast chargers. One level 2 connector or one DC fast charger would be fully eligible. Okay. Do you have a list of approved equipment for this program? We do have a list of approved equipment. If you go to CALeVIP.org and then from the top level menu under Get Started, there is an eligible equipment list that includes both level 2 and DC fast chargers that are eligible for this project and eligible for rebate. Next question is, are you referring to a multi-unit dwelling as a residential low-rise building or commercial locations only? So when we're talking about multi-unit dwelling, we are talking about residential use, whether low-rise, garden-style, mid-rise, etc. It is apartments, condominiums typically that qualify as multi-unit dwellings. Okay, the next question is, accept some form of credit card. Does this include no credit card reader on the charger, but a QR code for application transacting? Is a credit card reader in the charger a must? So it's sort of two questions there. I'll take the last first. There's not a requirement for a credit card reader in the electric vehicle charger or at the site specifically. Other methods such as a QR code could be acceptable method for credit card payment.
Andy, if I could, I'd add in one thing real quick.
Please.
So this is CALeVIP requirements. We still encourage, and it's written in there, that everyone needs to follow state, federal, etc. ordinances and laws. So as others might be aware, there might be a change to this happening in the coming months from ARB. So as of today, when you apply, you need to be aware that that's a potential, that ARB is kind of proposing some changes. It's not defined yet, but they are having a workshop, I believe, next month. I would encourage everyone to stay up to date, stay informed on what the final decision comes in May, because some of their requirements would be that chargers installed after July 1st, 2020 may have to have a physical card reader or chip reader installed on the physical charger, or a kiosk style that serves multiple. Again, that is not finalized yet, but pending stuff that everyone will need to be aware of. So, thanks.
Okay, thanks, Brian. Okay, looking at the next question, it is, what is the cost of power and what is the value of paying for power for public use? This is probably a question that is best answered on the specifics of the site that's being considered and the possible tariff that the EV chargers would be on. What I would encourage the person who sent that question in to do is to reach out via CALeVIP to CALeVIP@energycenter.org with that question. We will take all questions that have been submitted today away, though, and we will provide responses to them. This one does, though, involve more specific dialogue and require additional information to be able to be answered correctly. So there is a question, what is the time frame for approval? So thinking about the application process, there's a performance period I'll first highlight. So from funds reserved up through when the final documents need to be submitted for DC fast chargers is 450 days or 15 months. For level 2, it's 270 days or 9 months. The approval periods upon submittal of all those documents, we work to do a review in 5 to 7 business days to complete review of any new documents that have been submitted or any resubmitted documents to correct errors and inaccuracies in documents that have been previously submitted. Okay, where is the question is, where is the page to create an account for CALeVIP? If you go to CALeVIP.org, you'll find in the upper right-hand corner a button to log in. If you click on that button, it will take you to an interstitial page that will allow you to either log in if you already have credentials or create an account if you do not. Again, that's CALeVIP.org, the upper right-hand corner, log in.
And Andy, I'd also note there that for the accounts, that you don't need a separate account for each incentive project. So if you have one account already that you've applied in previous projects, you use that same account information.
Absolutely. Okay, so the next question I think was if we could get a copy of the presentation. We will be emailing the presentation out to all registrants and attendees for the webinar, and that presentation will include all of the slides. It seems we had 1 or 2 late attendees. So there's a question, what is the average range of level 2 installation? This is probably a question that we can answer a multitude of ways. If we're talking about the average range that's restored or fueled to a vehicle, it's a little bit dependent on which vehicle and on the rate at which the vehicle charges and the full power outflow of the level 2. What I would encourage you to look at is under resources on CALeVIP.org for site hosts. There is an EV 101 that does detail things around EV charging range by technology. I would encourage, we received a note from an attendee, Bev Rager or Rager. I apologize if I pronounced your name incorrectly. It just says McClellan Park TMA, and I'm not sure what the question there is. I would encourage you to resubmit a new question around what that thought was originally. So looking at the Next question, we have an observation, I think a comment from EVgo that I'll go ahead and read. EVgo notes that they're concerned about the low carbon fuel standard transfer and is filing comments on the docket with the commission to state our concern about the proposed policy and lack of process. Will there be opportunity for additional input? So both a comment and a question, will there be opportunity for additional input? The docket is open specifically for additional input. We do encourage you, if you have comments, to submit those to that, and we will, again, we have those links in the presentation will be distributed after this. There's a next question, is there a match requirement from the applicant? If the applicant is applying for level 2 only electric vehicle chargers, it is possible if the actual costs are under the maximum rebate amount that there would be no match or no funds needed from the applicant. On the DC fast charging application, there is either a 25% or 20% of actual cost match from, at a minimum, from the applicant on those applications. Looking at the next question, there's a question, will Smud cover the cost for the EV submeter? If not, can data from the submeter within the EV charger be used instead? So in our discussions with Smud, the EV submeter is a required element to be installed, and they would not look to pull data from the metrology in the electric vehicle charger itself. That said, there is possibility that the incentive design is intended to cover that meter cost as well. Next question is, what are the certification requirements for EV DC fast charging equipment to be eligible for the EV incentive project incentives? What I would encourage you to do is to look at or download the implementation manual that includes, for Sacramento County Incentive Project, the full equipment requirements for DC fast chargers. If DC fast chargers meet those requirements specifically, they would be eligible. The process for that is a manufacturer would register as a manufacturer on the CALeVIP.org, register a CALeVIP.org account as a manufacturer. That would open to them a way to submit online their equipment information for any chargers that they would like to have considered for this project or for future project eligibility. Okay, next question is each proposed location a separate application, or can you submit an umbrella application for multiple sites? At this time, each site gets filed, an application gets filed for each site. So we would need a separate application for each location. Okay, looking at the next question or comment comes from Juno Commercial Real Estate, noting that they have 3 charge stations right now and do not charge our tenants. Do you have a code that they use? How does that work with a credit card needed? So I think there's actually an underlying question here. We did not cover EV chargers installed and rebated under the project do not need to charge their end users a usage fee. If a usage fee is charged, a credit card option of payment is required. Okay. Next question comes from EV Charging Solutions. That question is for chargers being installed at curbside. What is the definition of adjacent? Is there a specific distance that's required from other eligible sites? It's a good question. Adjacent actually means that the street frontage in front of the property, defined by the property lines, would be the curbside that's eligible for the DC fast charger. So another way of saying that is that it would be abutting that property at the street property line. Next question is, can manufacturers still apply for their EVSE chargers to be included in this program? The answer to that is yes. We encourage you to submit, again, create a CALeVIP account, ensure that you check that you're a manufacturer, and then you would enter our process to submit your equipment for consideration in this Sacramento County Incentive Project and future projects. Next question is, are new construction multi-unit dwelling projects eligible? New construction MUD projects are eligible, as well as other new construction projects. I will highlight that any new construction projects need to comply with the performance periods that are applicable to any applications, and that is, if you're installing DC fast chargers or a combination DC and level 2, 450 days from your funds reserved, you do need to have those electric vehicle chargers installed and operational, which would mean if they're part of a larger new construction, that certificate of occupancy would need to have been issued for the site overall. Is there a cap for each site? There's a couple questions that came in series here. The first is there a cap for each site? There's not a cap per se. There's a maximum number of rebates that could be issued on any one site. That's up to, if the site qualifies as a DC fast charger site, that's for up to 4 DC fast charger rebates. If a level 2 site, for up to 10 level 2 connectors. The next question in there is, if a disadvantaged community site wants 4 DC fast chargers and 10 level 2, that is going to be $375,000 in total. That would be correct, and that would be allowed if that applicant, through that application, is not exceeding the applicant active application cap of $640,000.
And Andy, I'd also add in that while there is no kind of cap, as we mentioned, per site, there is a requirement or restriction that once an application is approved for a site, we will not be approving an additional application for that site. So if someone wanted to come in and apply for 10 and then finish that, they can't come in and apply for any other installation, even if it's if they only did level 2 before, but now they want to do fast charger, you can't come in and do 2 applications for one site. So if you know what you want to do it in the first application. If there's people competing for a site, hopefully you get it first.
Okay. Thanks, Brian. And I'm going to highlight that we have about 10 minutes left in the planned webinar time frame, and we probably have about 25 additional questions at this time to go through. If we do not get to your question, our plan is to, we capture all of those questions. We will today prepare a response to those, and that'll be sent out to the applicants, out to the attendees and the registrants to this webinar. So I do apologize, we've received quite a significant number of questions. Continuing with that, we have the next question from Ramon Portillo-Lopez at the Green Lining Institute. Ramon asks, can you talk about your outreach strategy to get small businesses and our community-based organizations in disadvantaged communities to engage and participate? We can talk briefly about that now and welcome continued discussion about that, Ramon. It does stem a little bit from whether or not we do finalize a partnership with Smud. Part of the value of finalizing that partnership with Smud would be that they have very direct local connections to all of the businesses, all of the customers within their territory, and we would be able to use those well-established channels to reach that, and we could specifically target those in disadvantaged communities to make them aware of the rebate, the increased incentive available for it, as well as the project's commitment to a minimum of 25% of funding going toward applications that place the electric vehicle chargers within disadvantaged communities. Next question comes in from EV Charging Solutions. Can you provide some idea of when the program starts in April? For example, the first week of April, mid-April, or end of April? It would be within the first half of April. And again, I would encourage you to pay attention to the March 28th email that will give you the exact date that the application, that the project will open for taking applications in. Okay. Regarding the next question, it's around permitting. It notes there are some properties such as higher education which self-inspect their own facilities, acting as their own AHJ. There is no permit that is issued. How should we document that at the time of payment request? It's a great question. We are aware that certain organizations are allowed by the state to be self-permitting. There generally is other documentation we can work on what that would be specifically. What I would encourage this questioner to do is to send in to CALeVIP@energycenter.org this question, and we can engage in a dialogue to define exactly what documents could be used in the absence of a permit from a more traditional AHJ. Okay, the next question is feedback or a comment suggesting that we need to account for PCI compliance when we look into making the credit card reader a requirement. In hospitals and big organizations, PCI compliance prevents them from putting these machines in, and to let the Air Resources Board know. Okay, looking at the next question, what is the average cost of a level 2 installation? That is, how much of the cost is the rebate expected to cover, or what percentage? There's quite a bit of variability here. I would encourage, again, this attendee to look under the resources site host page at the 2 or 3 resources that are under there that give some indication of possible costs. It is highly dependent. There will definitely be situations where the design rebate will cover the costs of both the equipment and the installation, and there will be cases where, because of power upgrade requirements, distance from power point of connection, or other factors, that the rebate may cover just a percentage of that cost. Next comment is regarding, I believe it's in discussion around Air Resources Board and I believe the credit card readers, and is asking if there is a web page to follow those decisions. Brian, unless you have the web page off the top of your head, this is something we can send out in a final response.
Yeah, I don't have it off the top of my head.
Okay, all right. Next question is, do you have a projected timeline for the site approval process for Sacramento County? So this would be in respect to new applications coming in and the process for CSE to review the site and determine it eligible. We would look to perform that within a 5 to 7 day business turn. And with that, we're approaching the top of the hour, our planned time, and because of room turnover as well, we're going to stop the question and answer at this time. But again, I encourage you all to submit comments to the docket, and as well to watch for response to any of the questions, to all of the questions, including those that we were not able to get to during this scheduled time frame. Finally, for all of the attendees on, whether you are a property owner or a potential site host or a service provider of one type or another, I encourage you to go on the CALeVIP.org website, and under the Get Started menu, find CALeVIP Connects, which is a resource to allow service providers to connect directly with property owners to provide the service that they need, possibly answering questions such as the cost or range of level 2 installations. Again, that's CALeVIP.org. Under Get Started, look for CALeVIP Connects. Okay. With that, thank you very much. Appreciate your time and your interest today.